We are now being joined by a very special guest. I'm incredibly excited, glad he could be on the show today. He is many, many things, so I'll try and go through his entire resume. He is a local businessman. He's the founder and CEO of Capacity Business Consulting, which is a local management consulting firm at capacityconsultinginc.com. He is also a executive coach and public speaker whose personal website is Egeland, Egeland.com. And he is also a published author of Employees, Kids, and Pets. I always get that mixed up. Who you can find out more about his book on Amazon, both available for print and Kindle purchase. And we have a short link. It's right off of our website, wmaronair.com/book. Or you can go to his website as well. So let's welcome Eric to the show. Eric, how you doing?
I'm all right. How are you, Shaun?
I'm doing great. We're glad we could have you on. And I'll also introduce you to my co-host, Stephanie.
Hello.
Hello.
So let's talk a little bit about you and your background. We don't need your entire life story, but what sort of brought you to where you are today?
Boy, that's a long story, Shaun.
Yeah, well, I know, and I've heard it. So, but just sort of, because I know that you've launched companies before, you've been in insurance for a while. What sort of got you into Capacity, for example, with consulting?
Yeah, I'll give you the epiphany story. I guess it's the most interesting. It kind of cuts to the chase. I was an executive in many business firms, and I sat in that typical corporate room where the CEO called all the senior vice presidents and C-suite executives into the room and said, "Hey, we've got this problem. What should we do? The grass isn't growing good enough." And around the room they would go, and this senior vice president would say, "We need to water it more." And the next guy around the table would say, "It needs more sun." And then the next guy across the table would say, "Goat's milk. That's what my aunt in Germany does, is put goat's milk on the grass, and it grows great." And I would sit there and watch this process unfold, and it occurred to me that nobody really knew the answer. Everybody was just pretty much guessing. And although each one of those people had experience, and some of them, 40 years of experience and Harvard educations and what have you, we really wouldn't know the answer. So they would turn to me and say, "Hey, Egeland, you've been awfully quiet back there. What do you think?" And I said, "Well, I think to answer the question that you posed, we need to ask these 5 additional questions, and this research needs to be done to answer those questions. But once we do that, we'll know the right answer and be absolutely positively sure forevermore." And having experienced that time and time and time again is what prompted me to get into business consulting.
That's a very good answer. So with that being said, sort of your main focus now is Capacity Business Consulting. And you do sort of a lot of different things for a lot of different businesses that are in a lot of different points in their lives. What's sort of the 1 or 2 main things that you focus on when you're working with clients for Capacity?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's 3 or 4 main areas that we get caught up into, but if you didn't get it from that little story, everything we do is rooted in research. We are anti-gut. People say, "Oh, it's my gut to do this. Follow your gut." They write books about it, and we think that's absolutely ridiculous. So intuition, gut, and passion are all great, but we don't make decisions based on that. Everything we do is based on research. So the three or four areas that we really get involved in are, first of all, startups. So if there's any entrepreneurs out there, we do many things for you, but the 2 main things that we would do for you are feasibility studies, which are basically a business plan on steroids to make sure that what you want to do is really going to make sense and going to make the money you think it's going to make, and not just beat you to death and fail. And for all of you who watch Shark Tank, we do funding preparation. So we essentially prepare the poor little entrepreneur before they go in front of the sharks to make sure that they don't get beat to death and they actually get get funded. For businesses that are up and running, we do 2 main things. We solve problems, and that could be any problem. You look at us like a general practitioner. We can come in and identify the root cause of the problem, because it's not always what you think it is, and come up with a solution. Could be anything: HR, systems, God knows what. You're not making enough money. Your expenses are too high, whatever. The other major area for businesses that are existing are strategic marketing plans. And the key to a strategic marketing plan, they come in three pieces. The first piece is a situational analysis, which is all the research. Most marketing companies skip that, and they just jump to strategy. And then the executables, which is the pictures and the logos and the websites. We do that strategy that really defines what your logo should look like and what you should say and who you should address to actually get through to your addressable target market. And lastly, we do sales and purchases of businesses. So we do valuations and term sheets and stuff. You want to sell your business, you come see us. We wrap it up in a nice bow, and we have a business brokerage as well where we can actually list it nationally.
Wow, that's that's quite a list. But one question, because I mentioned to a few people that you were going to be on the show, and I said, do you have anything that you think you'd want to know an answer to? And one question I got asked was, you work with a lot of businesses in the greater Hudson Valley area. What is the business community market like around here specifically? Do you see startups succeeding and growing? Do you see it sort of stagnant? I mean, where do you see where it's been, and where do you see sort of where it's going?
Well, two things. The business is absolutely on the upswing. There's no doubt about it. Having survived the recession, depression, whatever you want to call it, things are absolutely moving up as far as regular business is concerned, especially like construction and what have you. But I have to tell you that entrepreneurial startups, like real ideas that, like a college kid might come up with or a young person might come up with, that's never stopped. It never really does stop. So we've got some really great clients in the tri-state area, and it doesn't stop. You guys just pop up with stuff. You don't care if there's a recession. So
right. Well, that's good to hear.
Whether it's successful or not is sometimes a little rough because money doesn't flow. But I got to be honest with you, the people that have money, they sometimes have more money when you're in a recession. So when you talk about an entrepreneur trying to get funding from an angel investor or venture capital, those guys didn't get hurt through the recession. They're like, guy's name just flew out of my mind. Forget it. But anyway, they're like very savvy investors. They actually made money during the recession. So those types of deals don't tend to go away.
Well, that's good to hear. The other thing I wanted to mention is that you are, in fact, a published author. Your books, Employees, Kids, and Pets, How to Get Out of Your Own Way and Be a Better Boss, Manager, and Parent, is available for sale on Amazon, both in print and Kindle. What sort of brought you to decide to write a book?
There's going to be a common theme here of frustration in my younger years. I started Capacity out of frustration in the boardroom, like I mentioned. I wrote the book out of a little bit of frustration. One of the things that I did early on in Capacity was some undercover boss engagements, and I don't know if you've ever seen that show, but you essentially go undercover and kind of spy on people for all intents and purposes and figure out what they're up to. So that's really what prompted it. Was I just saw the most amazing things that employees would do when the boss wasn't looking. Just blew my mind, and that's what inspired the book. And also, to be honest with you, my partner Lori, who really was incredibly instrumental in helping me raise my daughter to be just an awesome kid. And taking those two pieces really inspired me to write the book, to kind of teach people it's pretty simple to raise good kids and raise good employees. It's just not human nature to do it the right way because it's hard.
Wow. So I will say, you got to check out the book. We got 5-star reviews on Amazon. You can get it through the quick link, wmaronair.com/book, or through Eric's website. Sort of the last question, because I don't want to hold you up too long, because I know you're a very busy man, is that you, of all the people I've ever met, you probably have the most interesting life stories that you hear and you just say, wow. I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you think you could give us some interesting story of something you learned through all your time working through these businesses that maybe taught you a valuable lesson?
Well, okay, so I thought you were going with my life story, which is, my whole history, which is why I asked you who the demographic was, because I would be comfortable answering that, given your demographic and knowing you, Shaun. So, but as far as a lesson, if that's where you were really going, the first thing that pops to mind is you're all going to love this out in college land, but be a lifelong learner is probably the most important thing that I could probably look back. Today's my birthday, by the way. I'm 45.
I didn't know that. Happy birthday. That's fantastic.
Thank you. So looking back over my entire life, being a lifelong learner is probably the most important thing that I've learned, and it's really what separates the men from the boys and the ladies from the girls. I have to tell you, even as an adult, the people that I respect the most and the people that I value, whether they're employees or peers, are people who are not ignorant. And the definition of ignorant to me are people that refuse to learn, not people that lack knowledge. So that would be my biggest lesson.
And that plays into what you were saying earlier about research and how important it is to know what you're talking about and know your problem to come up with a solution.
Absolutely. And, in anything, you talk to people. Who's the most annoying person in the world? The most annoying person in the world in a professional setting is somebody who's opinionated but hasn't done any homework. So, you see this in politics all the time. People spout off about politics and, they bash. Let's take the president because he's a favorite target for people. So people bash the president. It has nothing to do whether I'm pro or con. It has to do with how people handle it. They bash the president, but they make comments that aren't correct. Mm-hmm. And if they paid attention to what's really going on, they would realize that what just came out of their mouth was factually and entirely incorrect, and they just sound silly. So, yeah, it's not just that. It's just people who are open to learning just tend to be more pleasant to be around in general because it's an attitude, I think, more than anything.
Awesome. All right. Well, Eric, we are so thankful you came on the show today. I'm going to run through all the stuff that I can plug for you, and I recommend all our listeners write this down because Eric is a guy you're going to want to get to know because he's going places. You can, his main website for Capacity Business Consulting is capacitybusinessconsulting.com. And his personal website where you can learn more about his public speaking engagements and his executive coaching is Egeland.com, Egeland.com. And you also have got to check out his, I don't want to say bestseller, but his seller, his book, Employees, Kids, and Pets, How to Get Out of Your Own Way and Be a Better Boss, Manager, and Parent, which you can get through our website, wmaronair.com/book. Well, thank you, Eric. And with that being said, we're going to send it off to break. We will be right back with more. This is WMAR, Marist College Radio. Don't go anywhere.